All right, I have to do another podcast on what is zone 2, what is interval training, high heart rate, low heart rate. Go back up, come back down. Here to here, not here. So intervals, tempo zone 3. We need to fully recover before you go to the next interval. Also, I want to share some research I've been putting together for my clients using Lumen. How you can use Lumen device. It's a breath test. I forgot to grab mine. Nope, I don't have it here. How you can use it morning, pre-workout, post-workout to help figure out that confusion. At least it's confusing to me. Do I eat or not eat? Do I have enough carbohydrates on board to fuel a specific key workout, which is super important for me as a aging athlete and female athlete? Carbs are not evil. It's what source of carbs you're eating and when. If you are athletic and metabolic healthy, having some carbs, as I did blueberries and raspberries and blackberries, and some my probiotic yogurt and cottage cheese pre-post workout. Stacy Sims, I'll share the blog of her many podcasts and her Next Level book and Roar book, and Huberman podcast just came out. 15 grams of protein pre-workout, and she suggests, based on some research that I want to dive into a little more, 30 grams of carbohydrates. Well, does 10 grams enough to tell my body it has some fuel on board? That's what we have to experiment with, something as Lumen. Post-workout, depending on what intensity, do we have some protein and carbs? What type of fuel source? I like delivery in as taking essential amino acids from Body Health, Perfect Aminos. Also, I'm not going to eat a big meal right after I work out because I usually shower and start doing stuff and I forget to eat right away and I'm not really hungry. So I wait until I'm hungry to have a solid meal. But I'm trying to make an effort because I want to improve my recovery and my performance in the next workout by eating something post-workout, especially if it's longer and a harder workout, having a shake. As Keon has unsweetened whey protein powder that I just ordered, and creatine I just got in my shipments, should be here in a day or so. There's Equip that has bone broth or beef broth or beef protein. I like to find the unsweetened because I don't like all this stevia and monk fruit and extra flavoring and all this stuff. So I don't want sweetness. I don't think most of us should have sweet. I'd rather have frozen quarter piece of banana and a half avocado that's frozen, makes it really good, thick shake. Put that with some unsweetened whey protein if you can do grass-fed whey, or you can do the beef protein or bone broth protein. And if you are vegan or vegetarian, you have to be creative in having a pea protein with hemp and something else. You have to have the right essential amino acid profile with the leucine threshold. It's really important to stimulate muscle protein synthesis with that essential amino acids all together, including the key ingredient is the right amount of leucine. So you can look at Dr. Donald Lehman's research with his team. Dr. Gabrielle Lyant talk about this a lot. So let's go into my articles on debbiepotts.net on how to use Lumen. But before that, I want to touch on what I started to say, metabolic testing, and how if you can find someone or come see me, North San Diego metabolic testing, or I can come to you. If there's a bunch of people to test, I'll fly out to you. When we figure out your zones, it's based on your fuel source and breathing frequencies in a metabolic test, wearing the mask where oxygen is coming in, carbon dioxide is out. So the intensity increases. I was just actually, creating my own protocol, but the standard protocol is every minute we increase a certain amount of watts or speed, depending what equipment you're doing the test on, bike, treadmill, skier, machine, erg, we do a test beforehand to figure out your RPE and figure out a little formula of where to start and how much to increase your test. So it's a correct 9 to 12-minute exercise test. Now, yesterday I was just walking up and down my stairs outside trying to figure out if I can just see where I'm burning fuel source, walking around and then climbing stairs and figure out my peak fat burning. So what's cool about PNOE, it's portable and I can put a little backpack and it's put on Wi-Fi, wireless. So interesting. We can experiment a little more. What we're finding out when we do your test is your fat burn percentage and carb burn percentage. If you're not an athlete, you might not care about how many calories you're burning. But if you're hopefully improving your aging process by prioritizing your strength workout, your zone 2 workout, and your interval training workout when appropriate. And what that means for you, we don't know unless we test. And I have to do analysis, see what have you been doing? What are your goals? Is your metabolism when we tested at rest slower than it should be for your age, gender, height, and weight? If you're struggling with weight loss goals, ideally fat loss, and because we want to increase metabolism, we want to increase our lean body mass, we really want to focus on increasing our muscle health. And we want to figure out zone 2, where is your peak fat burning zone? So the training zones can enhance results by getting more specific focus on how you should train each month. Maybe we're doing a 3-week build, 1 week off, depending if you're training for a race, or we're matching your training cycle with your hormone cycle for females with the cycle, dropping it down in volume the week of late luteal phase end of your cycle. Now, we want to figure out your zone 2 and your interval training. Doesn't matter if you're trying to do a race or not. It means if you want to be a health optimizer, you just care about not falling apart as you age. If you care about a race, that's great. We have specific things we're looking at. If you are trying to figure out some whole health issues, why you're gaining weight with what you're doing, you're not changing anything, well, then we look at your thyroid, we look at gut health, we look at your Dutch test, hormone panel. I do functional lab testing with the metabolism testing and nutritional therapy and figure out your nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle program based on a holistic investigation, collecting data and figuring out what you should do, because it is not one size fits all. As Dr. Tracy Gappen says, it's one size fails all. So we want to test and not guess. So exercise training zones. Let's look at this. The human body has a different metabolic response depending on the exercise intensity it's exposed to. Its metabolic response is defined based on the amount of energy, and the type of fuel it uses at various intensities. Zone 2, you may be burning 4.5 calories a minute with a fuel mixture of 75% fat and 25 carbs. These attributes will gradually change as one moves to a higher level of exercise intensity zones because the energy demand increases and the fuel mixture required to sustain the growing levels of energy release needs to change. So we want to look at energy generation. How do we create energy? ATP, we talk a lot about mitochondria. I'm trying to talk more about oxidative stress because us that exercise a lot are creating more oxidative stress. And as we age, we have less resiliency to overcome the oxidative stress. So we need to probably do something to improve our antioxidants. Now, during exercise, the body burns a mixture of fat and carbs. We're not burning only fat or, well, at the end, you're burning mostly just carbohydrates. There's not fat in there, but there are some carbohydrates being burned, even though you're burning mostly fats. The process using oxygen, referred to as oxidation of fat. So fat ox is a word, or fat oxidation, and then the carbohydrate metabolism. Fat releases more energy than carbohydrates when we burn it. So we know 9 calories of fat for 1 gram of fat, and then there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, but has a slower burning process, making fat burning suitable for lower intensities as zone 1 and 2, where the rate of energy demand is low. So that's when you are trying to improve your fat burning efficiency. You might burn too many carbohydrates when you're running, so walking might be a better fat burning activity for you, and that will change as we train. So ideally, we want to keep testing you every 2 to 3 months because your numbers will change. Now, carbohydrates require less time to burn. Remember kindling that you feed a fire versus a big fat dirt flame, slow burning log will keep that fire burning. That's a little analogy I've used forever, but that makes so much sense when you have that visual of a fire. How do I keep that fire burning? I keep having to throw stuff on the fire to keep it burning with little sticks and branches and leaves I might find, give it fuel to keep the fire burning versus one big fat log. I'm good for hours. That is the difference of fat burning fuel source in zone 2 versus I'm going to train my long run or bike ride or hike up in top of zone 3 where I'm burning primarily carbohydrates, tiny bit of fat, but I can sustain this, but I'm creating a lot more oxidative stress because I'm burning mostly carbohydrates. Now, we want to see that in a metabolic test, how the fuel source changes as your intensity goes up. So the energy requirements, carbohydrates, as the exercise intensity increases, and the rate which the body needs to release the energy increases. So we look at your breathing frequency and a lot of data when we're doing your metabolic test. So the demand for our energy increases. Cells need to rely more on carbohydrates since they release energy faster. And as we know, zone 5 sprint interval training, heavy lifting is using zone 5. The energy source is coming from creatine phosphorylation. So creatine is a good fuel to take if you're doing more sprints and heavy lifting. So we need to supplement, especially women, they say need to supplement more than men, having that creatine 3 to 5 grams per day. And I just put it in my water bottle. So I just got a new order from Keon, or you can go to FullScript, see my links in my link tree, and you can order from FullScript. A bunch of those products are there. Now, what changes as a female athlete as our hormones change? We want to look at when we do metabolic tests, what day of your cycle you're on. We got to look at, we are more insulin insensitive as we age. So it's really interesting how we need to change how we train and looking at your Garmin numbers or your Aura and Whoop and really figure this out. So the testing, this is kind of a blurry picture when I expand it, but I've said this many times, when you are doing interval training, if it's a medium interval, 30 to 90 seconds, that requires a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. That means you hit zone 4. The timer starts. You're there 30 to 90 seconds. You recover. You hit your zone 1, the timer begins. You're in zone 1, 30 to 90 seconds. Not start the timer when you stop your sprint interval or hit. Now, if you're doing short, intense intervals that are zone 5, you're doing 10 to 30 seconds all out. You're not going to really be able to use it. You won't be able to use your heart rate monitor because it doesn't pick up that fast. So you're just going hard as you can. So this is why I say often, you don't really need a metabolic test for this. Just go hard as you can. The metabolic test will help you determine, are you improving your VO2 max as a result of doing more interval training? Now, proper sprint interval training, as you can see in this chart, you're only doing, say, 8 to 10 of them. If you are able to do more of that, you were not truly working zone 5. You should be done at 10. And if you're new to this, you shouldn't be doing 8 to 10. You should be starting with 3, 5 of them and work up to 8 to 10. Always start small and work your way up, because the key is quality over quantity. Don't do a bunch of crap sprints. This is when I stop my intervals, when I'm getting slower, not faster. So again, the key part of 10 to 30 seconds all out, recovery, but start your timer. Once you hit zone 1, start your split timer, 20 to 60 second recovery. Okay, not right when you finish that sprint. You got to get to zone 1, then you start your recovery timer of 20 to 60 seconds. And that, for me, requires walking before I get it down. Maybe I jog at the end, but I have to walk. Okay, key part. Now, let's touch on zone 1 benefits. Recovery zone is where we stimulate the oxygen delivery beyond utilization requirements. This increases our oxygen delivery to the limbs, excessive amount. This is why we want to be there for recovery. So we get more ATP to build up using free fatty acid reserves to be built, right? Now, stimulating the breathing during recovery. So this is increasing our oxygen. We are promoting the elimination of metabolic waste, which stimulates elevated breathing pattern to promote metabolic waste and carbon dioxide clearance. This is resulting in normalizing your acid-base balance, your pH balance. So remember, the newer research that should be out because it's been out for a while is the lactic acid is not causing you, the lactate isn't causing you that burn. It's the acid levels in our blood. So we want to clear lactate, and it's recycled for fuel source. You'll hear that in my interviews with Daniel Crumbach. But and Dr. or Joe Friel, he should be a doctor. I think he's a doctor, but he should be a doctor. Joe Friel talked about this as well. Lactate's reused as fuel source. It's the acidic blood that we need to rebalance that gives us that burn. So getting back into zone 1 helps us clear carbon dioxide, metabolic waste, and stimulate recovery, normalizing our acid-base pH balance. Interval training must be a recovery portion, work to rest ratio in zone 1. And Daniel Crumbach wrote this. He's the one that taught me this and drills it in my brain that the interval training is zone 1 on your recovery. Now, zone 2 we hear about as endurance athletes. I always laugh. We've talked about this forever. Phil Maffetone taught us years ago, 30 years ago, when he worked with Mark Allen, helped Mark Allen win multiple Ironman World Championships because he built up that aerobic engine training in zone 2 using back then the Maffetone to max aerobic function heart rate. Get slower to get faster. Zone 2 is known as continuous cardio or long sustained distance or long slow distance. I'd rather say sustained instead of slow. It's kind of a negative to me. Doesn't mean you're slow. It just means you're going sustained distance. Now, this is where we increase mitochondria density. So we're improving the structure. So Daniel Crumbach teaches us structure. This also increases capitalization. So that's the structural training benefit and tissue adaptation. So if we are training for a marathon, a triathlon, or long distance endurance event, especially if you're new, I've been doing this for over 25 years, plus that. 30 years. Geez, I'm getting old. Started doing endurance events when I was 25. Yeah, I'm 52. Where does time go? I don't have kids, so I forget how many years have gone by. Now, if I was training for a race again, I already have done years of zone 2 training. My body is good at that. I'm getting older. As a female, my hormones are really depleted. I need to get some estrogen supplement soon. That's my next goal. That I need more speed work. I don't need a lot of zone 2. I already know how to do that. And Stacey Sims had some great blogs on that. Debbie, unique individual, just would benefit from a long bike ride in zone 2. And then the rest of my workouts could be 3 days of biking with intervals if I'm doing a bike event. Depends on the race you're training for and your background and where you are in your training cycle. Now, zone 3 we get to is that tempo long intervals. This is where we can improve lactate shuttle, a structural benefit. This is where we're using lactate to create ATP. So remember, lactate is recycled and put back into the Krebs cycle and can be used as fuel, creating ATP again. Remember, ATP is our energy source. So how well you can create ATP using lactate improves if we use it, right? Decreasing our shift to zone 4 if we use lactate well. Lactate using aerobic system. Then longer zone 3, you can do work until shifting into zone 4. So this is where I think a lot of people spend way too much time in. They're not doing zone 2 when I test them and observe athletes as I see training out in the weekends and doing their bike rides or runs with friends. They're probably not in zone 2. That's why I want to test and not have people guess if they're in zone 2 or not. So I need to connect back with the San Diego Tri Club. People tend not to want to test. I don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but if you're trying to train properly for improving weight loss or performance goals in a race or event, I think it's best to know. If I care about my aging process, I'm not creating excessive oxidative stress by overtraining all the time. I want to know. I want to improve mitochondria, because what happens as we get older, we get less mitochondria. Where do we get our energy from? Mitochondria. So we want to improve our mitochondria health. Now, where do we do that? Well, zone 4 is more the medium intervals. Zone 3 would be doing tempo at like a 10-minute piece or 20-minute piece. If I'm doing a race, I'll do that before a race, like a month or two before. Zone 4 is a 2 to 4 minutes or even 1 to 4 minute piece. So when people are talking about that 4x4 workout, the VO2 max workout that got to be popular thanks to people as Peter Attia and Rhonda Patrick talks about it all the time. 4 minutes in zone 4, 4 minutes in zone 1, maybe bottom of zone 2, not 3 minutes, or not 4 minutes in zone 3. Zone 4 and then zone 1, 2. Now, this is going to help you coordination, speed, and strength, increase running speed. Cyclists can increase strength for hills here. When we go to zone 5, this is where we talk about increasing mitochondria density, capillarization. You're working on creating a base in zone 2 first. So those people that hear sprint intervals are the way to go, they may need to do a little more time in zone 2. There's also people I've interviewed about starting with sprints, then go longer, kind of reverse engineer it. But I think this is where I personalize my coaching program with clients. Runner wants to run faster and wants to get in the zone. Running deteriorates and they lose a lot of form running. So zone 5 is going to help you with that coordination. So if you're running hills, you may want to do hills. I do this a lot because I live in a hilly neighborhood, because I live on top of a hill. My driveway is a hill. That I always have to do hills that I would do 10 to 30-second sprints. And even for me living in North San Diego, once a couple times a month, we go to Torrey Pines and run intervals up there. Instead of me running as my husband will run all the way to the top, I'll feel more effective for my goals and my body to do 10 to 30 seconds fast and then walk and then fast run. So this is if you're kind of struggling with strength and form and you want to avoid your running form falling apart, you may benefit better from doing a 20, 30-second zone 5 and then zone 1 and then zone 5. Now, key points. Training zones are key. Your heart's response to energy generation process of the workout intensity increases. Training zones are your heart's response to the energy generation process as the workout intensity increases. Metabolic changes in each training zone. So we want to train different zones. We want variety. Training zones change over time. So doing a test every 2 to 3 months. Don't go by this data that you got tested a year ago. It's not accurate. Retest. Metabolic analysis is gold standard in figuring out training zones and overcoming your limitations. Now, heart training zones, again, doesn't need to be for endurance athletes, for people that are pro athletes. I want to get this information out to people that are not athletes. I think they need it even more than the athletes. Exercise, because I know you're exercising. It's the people that are not exercising and then they go try to work out the wrong way. This is a good way to enter into a workout program to figure out, oh my God, how should I train? I don't know how to do it. Get a heart rate monitor, get a test. Figure out where you are, and that's what the reports will help us with. So that's what I'm looking at when we're doing the testing. So lots more information on this blog. So you can go into this wpotts.net and you can see all this information, how we want to retest and get the information that we need. All right, so another article, what we measure when we do the testing. So you can see the resting metabolic test, you get a full report and get all this information here listed on the screen. And then your exercise test will give you a report with all these markers on a big report. And then again, we're looking at this interval training properly. And again, RMR is the number of calories your body needs at rest to maintain basic physiological functions as breathing, circulation, cell production. So knowing your RMR, resting metabolic rate, can help tailor nutrition exercise plans for weight management, longevity, I'll add in, and athletic performance. When I'm doing the resting metabolic rate and the exercise test, we're looking at respiratory quotient or the RER, the respiratory exchange ratio. I've talked about that a lot. So that calculation is going to tell us, are you burning fat or carbohydrates? The 0.7 marker will be fat, and then there's 1.0. Now, bring me back to the original plan of this video today. How does Lumen tie into all this? Now, once you do this test, I would get a Lumen. It's only $199. I think this $200, pretty good price for something that you can use daily and connect to the app. And it will show you as this picture when I do morning measurement, and then I'll do it 30 minutes before a workout and ideally an hour or so after I work out to check on what fuel source I'm burning at rest. So that RER I just tested in the metabolism PNOE test. Now I'm going to do it on your day-to-day measurements with the Lumen. Now, the reasons we want to test your RER to avoid that metabolic slowdown. We want to figure out where your metabolism, how to improve it, but then test day to day. A Lumen really can help that. We can optimize your training performance, monitor your metabolic health, avoid the metabolism slowing down. And that's where I look at your thyroid panel as well as your liver congestion, because conversion of your thyroid T4 to active T3 is in your liver and your gut. So we want to make sure we're looking at blood chemistry, microbiome, hormones, Dutch tests, food sensitivities. Now, PNOE, again, is oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, and that's what the Lumen is measuring, the carbon dioxide out. So you'll do a breath test with the Lumen. Now, if we go into what the test does with PNOE, and then you do this test with the Lumen day to day, and this is going to help you with that RER test morning. So the higher RER indicates higher carbohydrates, lower RER is more fat. So on the Lumen scale, you can see back in this picture, a 1 would be fat, 5 carb usage, 3 is 50-50. So when I do PNOE metabolic testing, the 1 will be equivalent to 0.7 on RER on your test when we measure with the face mask on. A 3 on a Lumen would be equal to a 0.80 on the PNOE device, and a 5 would be 1.0 or higher on a PNOE test. So when we go up your higher heart rates in the exercise test, you'll see we go above 1.0, getting to 1.2 or something. That's what the Lumen's doing. So I put this blog together, how to use Lumen to determine your exercise plan and fueling plan, because we can help us figure out a metabolic flexibility, mitochondria health. And knowing how stress impacts that is really interesting. So using the Lumen to put this together with your fueling plan also indirectly helps you with your sleep and your stress management program, because I can tell a lot of flus when you wake up and your morning lumen's a 4 or 5 and you've been fasting overnight for 12 hours. Well, what else is going on that's causing you to burn carbohydrates? Why is your glucose up while you're sleeping? What raises glucose? Cortisol. What's raising cortisol? Maybe a parasite. Your pathogens are more active during night. Maybe you didn't eat enough before bed. Maybe you went to bed stressed out by watching TV and being on Instagram too late. So we want to look at the individual. So mitochondria, if they're healthy, this is a goal as you listen to Dr. Casey Means, mitochondria produce energy. They switch fuel sources as needed. So we want metabolic flexibility to shift from fat to carbohydrate based on what our energy demands are. We want proper mitochondria function and lowering our production of reactive oxygen species by overtraining at high heart rates and causing damage to our cells, including mitochondria damage. So we want to use all this lab testing, PNOE testing, a Lumen, and personalizing our program using your Aura, or your Whoop, all these different devices. That's what I do as a coach. Take all this information and let's figure out how we can personalize your nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits, so you're thriving as you age. So Lumen is a good tool to use day to day. I find it pretty fascinating to learn about a client, and I can see everything from the back end of the Lumen portal for practitioners. So Lumen helps identify patterns of stress. What might be impacting your mitochondria function? Poor sleep, high stress levels, inadequate nutrition, including low energy availability, not eating enough, versus always thinking I eat too many carbs. Not eating enough is a big thing for us females and athletes. Now, that can impair our mitochondria efficiency there. So, we need to learn how to make adjustments in these different areas as an individual to enhance our mitochondria health, indirectly, our metabolic health and our aging process, and energy levels are improved, physical performance, and overall well being. Now, Lumen helps us track all this information, as I said, measuring your carbon dioxide pre workout, take a breath measurement. You want to sit up tall, take it in a relaxed state. So I usually sit there for a minute or two and just breathe and shift, because I was doing it on the go and not paying attention and just doing it. And it was always higher carb burning. But if I took a moment to relax and reset, just as we should before we eat the meal, take 3 deep breaths in and out and reset and shift into parasympathetic state, then do the Lumen test. Post workout, I think you wait an hour or so and then test to see if you shifted back from fat or your body's burning carbs because you worked out carbs and it's taking longer to switch back because you need to replace the glycogen storage. So higher levels of carbon dioxide indicates higher RER, which means higher carb usage. Burning carbs produces more carbon dioxide relative to oxygen levels consumed. A lower carbon dioxide level, which means lower RER, which means higher fat utilization, which means burning fat produces less carbon dioxide in relationship to your oxygen consumed. Now, how do we interpret the data again? Pre-workout state, the carbon dioxide measurement before your workout will help determine if your body's burning fats or carbohydrates at rest. Again, this can be influenced by factors as your previous meal, if you've been fasting too long or too just the right amount, and your overall health of your metabolism, metabolic flexibility. And then post workout, we want to do this to see how your body responded to that exercise. What was that intensity of your workout, that duration? So, a high intensity exercise typically leads to a higher respiratory exchange ratio, which means higher carb burning. As compared to a zone 1-2 workout, a lower intensity exercise may maintain or even lower your RER depending on continuance of fat that you're depending on for your fuel source. This morning, a good example, I have a hard workout tomorrow. It's my long bike ride day that we love to do, and it's always hills because we live in a hilly area north San Diego. And we're going to do a shorter ride because last week was a long 5-hour ride. Tomorrow we're doing a 3-hour ride, and then we'll go longer next weekend. But it's supposed to be 9,500 degrees. So we're going to start early and go just 3 hours. And it's a hilly ride. And I know because I'm not going as long, I'll hit those hills, and you can't really go slow up them because they're pretty steep up Highland Valley. Wine countries out there, and there's big, huge hills. So I'm going to be burning a little more carbohydrates on there. Now, because I know I'm doing a hard workout tomorrow and I want to perform my best, I did an easy workout today. We wanted to just go for a little spin. It was super short because where we live, it's not easy to go short or easy flat ride. So we just kind of took it easy, went down to Lake Hodges and just did some loops around. Just more fun. I even stopped to take pictures because it's a beautiful morning. Came home and did some walking around the yard. Now, strength training I did this morning as well, because that's when it's easiest for me to get to the gym is first thing in the morning. And I did more mobility and Pilates yoga. I used to teach Pilates yoga. So I did my own little Pilates yoga class, and then I did some leg weights back work today was my focus. So how do I use the Lumen? Will help me figure out my fueling today, but focusing on tomorrow being ready. Now, benefits of it, comparing your pre and post workout measurements helps you gain insights in how your body switches fuel sources, fat to carb or other way around, and burning post workout more shift in your fuel source based on your intensity of the workout. Optimize your nutrition and your training. The data from the Lumen can help tailor your nutrition and training to your metabolic state. Example, if you found that you're not efficiently switching from carbohydrate burning back or switching from carb burning during intense session, you might adjust your carb intake before your workouts. Because if you want to go hard in your top of zone 4 zone, bottom of 5 sprint training, high intensity interval training, going down to zone 1, remember, back up, that you need to fuel properly for that. So everyone that's anti-carbs, we talk about eating nature's carbs. I've been into summertime having organic raspberries, blueberries, blackberries with some cottage cheese. I'm not eating before I work out in the morning, just getting some coffee and heavy cream, but I'm experimenting with adding some protein and carbs in my coffee because I'm not going to eat. But tomorrow, my book ride, I'll have something as a berry cottage cheese because dairy is okay on me. Not everyone can, but that's a good carb protein fat ratio. So working on your nutrition, experimenting, that's what this device will help you track and make adjustments. So regular measurements will help you monitor changes in your metabolic flexibility and improve your body's ability to burn fat and carbohydrates. And it's not a bad thing that you're burning carbs. It's just, again, we're talking about improving your performance and metabolic health, and we want to improve aging process. So we want to be able to have both dual fuel. Now, Lumen's carbon dioxide measurements before and after workouts are beneficial, but there's also how it can help pre-morning. So I put some information there. The breath, the workout measurement we talked about, fat burn versus carb burn, and then before first thing in the morning. So I put some information in what to eat, some ideas, how to eat. I don't suggest oats. That's from an article I found, but I'm not a big banana oats sports drink person, but we'll edit that. Low intensity workout, post nutrition. I rather berries, potatoes, cooked and cooled potatoes and rice can be safe starches. Type of workout fuel needs if you're doing a strength training, endurance training, or mixed interval training. So we can look at that. And then carb cycling helps, fasting if it's appropriate for you and when to stop. So article goes on, but you can read this on my website, How to Use Lumen. It's on debbiepotts.net. And lastly, women's health for those that know a female has hormones or no hormones. If you have a menstrual cycle or maybe you're entering menopause, remember, which is 1 day after you've graduated from 12 months of no cycle, you have 1 day to celebrate your menopause. And you know what the next day after menopause is? Postmenopause. That's the funniest thing. It's such a joke, but it's, as Dr. Elizabeth Bright talks about, it's reverse puberty, right? So you're in puberty, you're in perimenopause, and then you're back in reversing everything as we age. So women's health, you can get a lot of data here. Chronic stress, we can learn a lot about that. Look at your blood markers, insulin, blood sugar levels. Look at what you're eating day to day. If you're overtraining, cortisol levels, sleep, hydration, all that. So if you want to learn more, you can go to the website, find my link to save $100 on your Lumen device and get tested. PNOE ideally for someone near you. And hopefully this helps you figure out, how do I lose weight? How do I get faster? How do I get stronger? How do I fuel and train to be my best self? My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes is, comparison is a thief of joy. So we don't want to compare ourselves to other people, just figure out how you can be the best version of yourself and how you can be better tomorrow. Sometimes we just need to push pause, Control, Alternate, Delete, reset and reboot, course correct, and figure out how to make those right changes. But you're just guessing unless you can do a test and work with a practitioner as me, or find someone that you connect with that understands where you are and meets you where you are at, collects data and knows how to look at everything from a holistic approach. We want to hopefully be fit and healthy from the inside out as we age. A lot of that is working on our day-to-day fueling, exercise type, duration, frequency, intensity, timing of our food, how we're eating, when we're eating, what we're eating. And then we've got the stress management, the sleep hygiene routine, the movement and mobility, the digestion and gut health, hydration, mineral balancing, and then, of course, happiness, play, laughter, gratitude, doing what we love to do, being with people that make us happy and bring us joy, getting rid of the people that are energy robbers and they're toxic. That is what I call the holistic method coaching program. So if you have any questions, just please email me, reach out, and then let's figure out how we can all strive to thrive as we age and enjoy the aging process.